So nice to see everybody. Cross your shins, flex your feet, pulling the toes back. Place the hands about the middle of your thigh, lift up on the, press down on the thigh, lift up the spine. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Take a nice deep breath, and as you exhale, press your hands down again, lifting up as you exhale. Take another deep breath in with the full lift. Drop your shoulders as you exhale, drawing your back ribs towards each other, your side rib forward, and your front rib up. Let the eyes close with the head raised slightly, or at least your chin neutral. Not down, not overly up. So for just the next minute, think about what you want for yourself. Think about what you need to do to make it happen. And I say you need to do to make it happen because it is very easy to recognize all the external forces of life that might be in our way towards achieving whatever we want. Ultimately, yoga says that we are to let go of the attachment to those things, but only still work towards them. It's a confusing duality in the practice. How am I supposed to work towards something if I'm not supposed to be attached to it? The difference is, the thing is that it asks us not to be attached to the result. If you want health, the thing not to be attached to is the idea of health, an illusionary idea of youth or flexibility or strength, because we can't judge or even begin to imagine what we're capable of because the future is unknowable. But we still work towards health or strength or flexibility or youthfulness, but not attached to the result of. Because so often results are measurements given to us by other people or come from an illusory idea of the past. So when you think about what you want, my friends, what you need to do to get that, recognize how much of that is driven by the idea of what you will get or will be at the end of this, but rather, as yoga consistently offers when you're on the mat, that hard idea that you may not be there yet, but what you're getting on the way to getting there. What you're getting on the way to seeing what the end result is truly the wisdom part of this. And as I've said at the end of classes before, the world is full of strong people, flexible people, wise people, all those things. But what we need more is the wise people, compassionate people. And we learn that from working on ourselves, by giving ourselves what we need on the yoga mat, the dinner table, at that social gathering with friends, whether it's online or the one-on-one and safe. Those are the experiences that we find that yoga encourages us to find the greatest reward in. Not at the illusory idea at the end of the road. Not at the fruit that comes off a tree and you don't even know what the tree is. So let your practice, my friends, today Be one of discovery, not one of rushing down the interstate of life. Your practice to be one of seeing and feeling yourself so you can decide a little more accurately, clearly, compassionately, wisely what it is you need. So the thing that drives you is moment-to-moment awareness and wisdom, rather than an illusory idea of what might be. Bring your palms together, thumbs touching the sternum. We'll take a breath in, we'll Om shortly 3 times, and we'll start. Breath in. Om. Flex your feet. Om. Ribs up. Om. Bow your head. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Bring your hands into your lap. Let your head rise and your eyes open. So nice to see everybody. No one just disconnected during that. It's great. So stand on up. Let's do some work. Have a couple blocks nearby. So when we start engaging into a lot of different yoga poses, there's always points of resistance, right? And it's easy to focus on the point of resistance. Oh, my hamstring's tight. Oh, my back's hurt. Oh, my knee is weak, blah, 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 blah. So what can we do to stabilize, and where can we define power or action from to help us create this movement? If the hamstring is too tight to move, how can we engage other parts to do it? If the back is too tight to move, then how do we use other parts to do it? So we're going to explore that with the core muscle today. So stand nice and wide on your yoga mat, 3.5 to 4 foot apart. We'll go through 5 standing poses, 7, I lied, 7 standing poses, and then we'll do some laying down stuff, and then we're going to stand back up. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on the first 7, but I want you to feel them and pay particular attention to the areas of resistance you have and some other things I'll point out. So standing nice and wide, 3.5 to 4 foot apart, turn your left toes in slightly, turn your right toes all the way out. Stretch the arms wide, both legs stay straight, flex the thigh muscle. Remember, move a stable muscle, not a straight or overly flexed muscle or a hypermobile muscle. So flexing the right thigh, shift your right hip towards the left, stretch your upper body out over your right leg, and take your right hand onto the block, the left arm up, Utthita Trikonasana. Now feel what muscles you use to move that. I don't know. We won't be here long, but kind of then take a breath into it and follow through some of the motions that we know in these poses that are beneficial or useful to opening or creating space in the body. Stretching down through the outer left heel. Stretching both sides of your rib cage out. Lifting your left arm out of the, away from the shoulder. Stretching your right arm down to the block. Those points of spread, right? Classic. What are the muscles that are help doing that? One, yes, the arm, the bicep, tricep, shoulder is going to be helpful to lift that, but what's the muscle below that that helps? Do you have a foundational muscle to move that off of? In the upper torso, it's the core. Even for your legs, the core can be true. And some of you have heard me say this many times in class. If your legs are not engaged, your core is not stable. That means your back is doing all the work. So pay particular attention. Where is your abdominis in some of these poses? Take a nice breath in, strong right leg, push through the right foot, bring the torso up. Turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Stretch the arms wide. Try to keep the arms up as you do this. Part of the reason for that is when you keep your arms up, you don't slouch down into your back. But keeping the arms up and wide, you ask the chest to lift, the legs, the abdominals have to lift too. Stretch your left hip towards your right hip, shifting the pelvis across. Stretch the upper body out over the leg, take the hand to the block, take the right arm up. Push through the outer right foot, right thigh. Stretch through the left leg, not straightening it, but flexing it to push more through the foot so your hips shift. The right arm stretches up, the left arm stretches down, and stretch both sides of your rib cage away from the hip, not bending backwards or curling forward as best you can, but be aware of what muscles help create that action. Start to feel where you are now before we go into all the other stuff. Strong legs, take a nice deep breath in, bring your body up, turn your left toes all the way in, turn your right toes all the way out. Shift your right hip to the left. Yeah, bend your right knee now, keeping your hip shifted. Take your right hand to the block. Side angle, swing your left arm forward and then overhead, stretching through that side body. And again, what muscles helped move that arm? Should be your lateral. So where's your abdomen in this? Where's the strength of your core to help, one, the legs stretch away from your hip, right, to stabilize your spine, and then your upper body to lift away from the hip. I'm not saying grip the stomach or crunch yet, but if you look at pranayama or a lot of the bandhas, they're about these very deep abdominal flexions, very different spaces of the abdominis. And the standing poses, all the yoga poses, teach us how to access them. So I think it's beholden to us to start feeling them out in these poses. So we're going to go through the standing poses, then we'll really work the abdominals out and see if we can make a difference. Keep the right knee bent, bring the torso, the upper torso up, straighten the right leg, turn your toes all the way in, your left toes out. Bend, shift your left hip to your right hip, and then bend the knee. Now, the reason I'm asking you to do this before, to shift your hip before you bend the knee, is I want your femur bone to move under your upper torso. So your left hip is centered under your spine, so that when you lean your left side of your body over, your abdominals help hold you up instead of leaning on your lower back. Take your left hand down, your right arm up. Swing the right arm through and breathe. Bend that left knee. But when you bend that left knee, can you challenge that left hip to stay under your body, pulling towards the right? So it's a lengthening of that femur bone. Knee goes away from hip, hip goes towards opposite hip. So that hamstring has to work, that thigh has to work. And because once the leg is stably under your body, your core has a chance to work too. So where is your abdominal muscles in the lift or extension of your spine here? You may not know. I have not given a clear answer. Starting to ask the question so you can get your head around it. Because it's easy to be in a pose working towards the flexibility or only towards, I don't know, I was just supposed to be here and I paid for the class. Every class is a chance to work or learn something about a different part of the body. Bring the body up. Turn your left toes all the way in. Turn your right toes all the way out. Rotate the upper torso to the right, so your left hip rolls towards your right leg. Your right and left arm kind of helicopter around with you. And then exhale, stretch your left arm out in front of you. Take your left hand to the block, right arm straight up, revolve triangle. First revolve pose, asks a lot of core muscle. If you find your balance is off, first micro bend your knees. Always have stronger legs. Stronger legs will help your balance, but more than straight legs will, I promise. And then as you stretch your right arm up, or you roll your right ribs up, or your right hip up, what's the thing that's helping the back and the upper torso move it? Where's your front body in this pose? Right? Because I know we all feel the back, but is your abdomen just soft and hanging, or can you flex it and use it to lift the spine slightly so your back muscle has a stable thing to roll on? There's a lot of deep abdominal engagement to learn in all of these poses, not grip, but how the abdominals stabilize and allow spinal movement. being totally passive in literally one of the most important muscles for your body, if not your ego, matters. All right, take a nice breath. Push down through the right foot, push down through the left foot. Even if you must keep the knees slightly bent, keep those legs strong and flexed. Push through them, bring your body up by lifting up through the abdominis. Great, turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Rotate the pelvis, rotate the upper torso to face out over your left thigh. Once you've rotated the pelvis, torso as best you can, stretch the right arm out. Lengthen that body, extend, take the right hand down to the block. Left arm goes up. Even if you don't rotate a lot, challenge yourself. Because when you challenge yourself where you are, you will learn the thing, you will find where you are not engaged. Or as my teacher would say, you will learn the deficiency so you can change it. I promise your deficiency is not your hamstring. It is working very hard right now, right? The goal is not to be attached to the feeling of being totally flexible or never feeling stretch anymore, but to learn as much as we can. And ultimately, I think, engage as much of us in this journey as possible. Each individual in their own pose. Take a breath. So take a nice belly breath. Pull the abdominals up towards the spine a little bit. Don't take your hand off the block yet. And twist by lifting your core slightly. So you're drawing the navel towards the spine. You're rounding your low back a little bit by the core lifting it up, and then rotate your back muscle with that core engaged. Stretch the right side down, stretch the left side up. Because even if you don't twist deeper, you will feel it more clearly through the body. Are we not here for awareness? Bend the knees if you need to, just a little. Keep those thighs flexed, push through the feet, bring your body up. Well, there's 3 poses. We might get to all 7, I don't know. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Stretch the arms wide. Shift your right hip towards your left hip. Bend your right knee. Pause. Rotate your torso over the right thigh so your arms are stretched out. And then take your left hand to the block on the inside of your foot or outside, whatever you like. And then from there, stretch the right arm out away from your body, and then try to push through the block. Rotate your right ribs up to the ceiling. Don't take your right arm straight up. The right arm is alongside the right ear. And so when you rotate the ribs, the ear, the bicep all move as one. So roll your right ribs up into the revolved side angle. And then take a minute, feel what's screaming, right? The desire to practice enough to it doesn't scream anymore, which we don't know if that will ever happen for any of us individually. There's the hope. But then feel what's not engaged in this. What part of you is not physically in it. Bend the right knee, Shubha. This is a side angle, revolved side angle, not triangle. Everyone's right knee should be deeply bent with the left hand on a block and the right arm overhead rotating. Feel the challenge it is to even bend the right knee. Take a deep belly breath. When you exhale, draw the navel towards the spine, flex the abdominals so you feel your lower back round slightly. It's like a cat arching its back up and then twist. Your legs might shake a little more, but any degree that you can engage your body into the pose is better. All right, keep the knees bent, windmill the body up. You know what's going to happen. Right toes turn in, left toes turn out. Arms wide. Shift your left hip towards your right hip so there's the pelvic tilt to settle one of the thighs under the spine. Bend the left knee, bend the left knee. Rotate your torso to face out over the right or the left thigh. And then once you've leaned your upper body over, feel the core muscles, lift them up a little, flex the abdominals, and then take your right hand to the block. Stretch the left arm out alongside your left ear and then rotate. This is not an easy pose. It is asking your pelvis to do a ton of different stuff. But what I also ask you to do is to not just rely on your lower back to do the twist. The reason this is so hard to twist in is because the instability of the pelvis leads the back muscle to not be able to compensate like it does in triangle or revolved triangle. You must find a different muscle set to help it. So take that deep belly breath, flex the abdominals, pull them up towards your spine, not to your neck, but towards your low back. So you're arching your low back and then twist any degree more. Start to see if you can use the abdomen to help the movement. And it might flex and then totally let go. I have found this to be true in some of my poses. That stabilizing force of the core muscle wants to go out because of the ease of using the back, or the habit, in my case. Take a breath, windmill the body up. What's that, 4? Said 7. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Both hands on your hips, as Tristan is doing very good at demoing. Rotate your pelvis to face the right thigh. Once you've rotated the pelvis around, notice where the spine and the abdominals are. Is your spine lifting up above your hips, or are you letting the abdomen and the low back sway forward? It's not an engaged muscle. Push down through your front foot very firmly. Push down through both, actually, like you're trying to lift your hips up away from the floor. Take a breath, draw the navel towards the spine, and then rotate the ribs and the belly button more. Stretch both arms up. Think about your abdominals sucking towards your spine and then up your spine to lift your arms. So your neck lifts. And then bend the right knee any degree, but don't let the abdominals engage and drop into your pelvis. If you let them unengage and drop into your pelvis, your back catches it, your knee catches it, your hip catches it, because your body is going to take care of you. Or is at least going to try and catch you while you do fun stuff. So explore how hard it is to engage one abdominal wall in this versus the other, or if it may or may not be for you. Try flexing the left side and feel what that does to your lift of your spine or the drop of your hips. Try flexing the right side. Be explorative. All right, straighten the front leg, bring the arms down, turn the right toes in, turn the left toes out. Both hands on your hips, rotate towards your left. Once you've rotated the hips, now re-engage the abdominals, right? It's easy. You think it's going to be better to twist less muscle. We create stability by moving engaged muscle. Even though it may be difficult and it may ding our ego or make us feel something, I'm not in yoga to be numb. So take that belly breath, draw the navel towards the spine so there's a lift of the spine up, rotate that right hip around, rotate the ribs around, the navel around to whatever degree, and it may not be equal on each side, but at least you will be clear of that now. When you're ready, bend the left knee, let the hips come down. Rotate that hip down. Take a breath, stretch both arms up. And then again, feel where your upper body is in relationship to your pelvis. Has it tilted towards the front leg, or are you keeping it in line? Can you keep it in line by asking the abdominal wall to draw back towards your spine and then lift the front of your spine up? As one of my teachers would say, go 1 inch in front of your spinal column and lift all of that up to your head. Take a couple breaths and explore one side versus the other. Can you feel the abs flex at all? Even if you have to bring your hands down and touch your stomach and like poke through and find if it's there, that's fine. but focus on what you're doing with it. All right. Straighten the leg, turn the left toes in. Stretch the arms wide, turn the right toes out. Extend through each leg, letting the hamstring lift the buttock. And then exhale. Where's the abdominals? Or even here, can you use your abdominals to help increase the extension of the spine? Draw the navel back, draw them up the front of the spine. If your abdominals went from your pelvis all the way up to your neck, could you move all of that muscle up that length of that spinal column and then bend the right knee, but don't lose that lift of that spinal column. The lift of the front body moving to the back body to rise. You've heard me say it in class. Lean your weight into your back body. It makes the front body work. Now you're going to actively ask yourself to flex the back body to teach yourself that it's safe to be in both sides. And it is exhausting. Except for Tristan, who's just yawning because she's bored. Look at that. We can make it harder, though. She said that's not why she's yawning. When you bend the right knee, stretch that thigh bone, stretch your left thigh bone. So you make in both, try to put equal power in both feet or equal weight in both foot. So you can flex each side of your abdominal wall. So for just a half a second, let's play again. Lean more weight into your right foot and then feel how hard it is to engage your core muscles. Now, lean more of your weight into your left foot and then try to engage your core muscles and feel the difference. There's an imbalance to it. All right, straighten your front leg, turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Almost there, arms wide. Class is half over. Be excited. Time's flying. Before you bend the knee, press down through the feet equally. Engage the abdominal wall to move back and lift up the front side of the spine, and then bend the knee. Don't worry, after the standing poses, there'll be plenty of laying down poses to explore that. And then check in with yourself. Are you leaning more to one foot than the other? If you have more weight in one foot than the other, tells me you're using your back side one more than the other. So don't be afraid to look down the length of yourself. And is your spine still straight up, or are you tilting or curving one way? And then can you shift your upper body to help your lower body feel that equal weight, engage strong, and then from the abdomen draws back and up the front of the spine. Now, you can be feeling it. The hard part is keeping it all the time. If you were to do Uddiyana Bandha in pranayama, you would have to learn to hold it for like long stretches of time, and it is incredibly challenging to do. As we get closer to rejoining each other in the actual yoga studio, we're going back to all the pranayama work and all that hard stuff. We got to be ready. Straighten the leg, turn the toes in, turn the right toes out. Bend the right knee. Take both hands to the floor in front of your right foot. Virabhadrasana 3. Lean your body weight into your right hand. Exhale, lift your left foot up into the air, the height of your hip, with your toes pointing down as best you can. What leg muscles are working and what you're not? I already feel that. So if you have to bend either knee to feel the thigh flex, that is preferred than a straight leg. I would rather have a highly lifted, slightly bent left leg and a very strong, slightly bent right leg than both straight, but neither supporting your balance or body. So just even here, take a nice belly breath and try and lift the abdomen up like you're rounding your lower back. A teacher once described it to me as, when you feel the core muscles lift, it's like both of your rib cages, both sides of your rib cage widen on the back. So try to pull your core up. And if you feel like you're that is lifting you off of your hands and making your legs work harder, that is correct. Your weight should be in your legs more than your hands in this pose anyway. All right. Bend the right knee, take the left foot back down 3.5 to 4 foot away from your body. Bring your body back up. Turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Bend the left knee. Take both hands onto the floor, front of the foot. Exhale, lift the right leg up into the air. As you lift the right leg up into the air, turn the right toes to point down. Bend the knee if you can't lift the leg up easy. I would rather have it said bent knee, strong leg. Good. I appreciate those of you that are doing it. Very nice. Now, take those belly breaths and try and flex the abdominals up. And remember, your abdominals are not right at your diaphragm, so you're not pushing your shoulder or your mid-back higher. Pull way below the navel up. Pull the front side of the pelvis up. And then go to the belly button, pull it towards the spine. Go above the belly button, pull it up. Feel the ribs move. If you feel like you leg works harder, again, that is correct because the core weight lifting takes it out of our shoulder, neck, and hands. Fatigue in the legs shows us that you're shifting your body weight away from the weaker part to a part that needs it. Bend the knee, bring the foot down behind you, bring the body all the way up, then lay on your back. Grab a block. Nice. Have a block. You don't have to, you can have a book. You can have anything that you could squeeze between your knees, please. So Tristan's going to take the block. You're going to place the block or the particular object flat between the knee joints. Squeeze it. So if you take your fingertips onto your abdomen, on each side of the belly button, spread your fingers out a bit so you feel lots of different surface. Squeeze your left leg into the block harder than the right, and then feel what changes in the abdomen. When we squeeze one side in, it engages certain of the abdominal muscles closer towards the hip. But that's not the upper abdomen, which would stabilize the arch of the back. So squeeze your right more than your left. Feel what abdominal muscles flex there. Kind of become intimately familiar with the sheath of abdominal wall, right, that surrounds the organs, that connects the pelvis to the ribs, and the spine, all of it. Squeeze both thighs into the block firmly. So you flex the quad, push the feet down slightly, and then rotate the thighs in on the block and feel how your abdominal engages. How much, and be aware, try not to push your lower back to the floor to do this. This is not sucking or caving your body inward, but keeping your pelvis neutral while you work your legs and your core muscle. Just be aware of that. All right. Now, when you squeeze hold the block, but don't force very hard with either one. Squeeze the left thigh into the block and then tuck your left, do not lift it off the floor, tuck your left buttock towards your left knee. So your left glute fires really hard and scoops up in towards the knee joint, like it was going to roll up off the floor, and feel what part of the abdominal wall engages when you do that. It's the lower part near the pelvis, maybe not the upper part yet. All right. Unflex the left thigh, unscoop the left buttock, squeeze the right thigh into the block, flex your right buttock and scoop it up towards the knee. Is each side the same? Are they different? My left abdominal wall does not engage like my right side does. Now flex both thighs, squeeze both in, flex both buttocks, and without lifting up off the floor, can each glute pull up towards the back of the knee so you start to feel the whole bottom of the pelvic abdominal area start to flex. Yeah. Tristan says yes. So now we need to, so that's how we engage left to right, lower lateral to center abdominals. Some of the actions that we can do. Now, pick both feet up off of the floor so the knees are above your hips. Still squeezing the block. Just by picking the legs up in this manner, the upper abdominals have to flex. So now, squeeze the block firmly with each thigh, flex your buttocks, and tuck your glutes up towards the knee so you really feel now the lower abdominis and the upper abdomen flex. Try to keep those actions. The legs lifted helps increase the upper, squeezing the thighs and flexing the glutes in this manner. The draw of the buttock helps engage the lateral. Take both legs very short distance, about 3 to 4 inches to the right, just 3 or 4. So you're more on the right side of your sacral plate and the right buttock. Left butt comes off the floor 3 inches if you go 3 inches to the right. So yeah. Now, flex the glutes. Which part of your abdominal wall gave out? Can you keep each glute flexed towards the knee? And then slowly, this is the fun part, lower your feet so they are 1 inch off the floor. And then slowly, and you only go as far as you can maintain all these actions. Slide your feet 1 inch above the floor like you're going to straighten the legs out away from you. Flex the glutes, pull them up to the knee. Squeeze each thigh into the block. And you may not straighten each leg, but you're still on the right side of the sacral plate. So you're really teaching that left side to flex and elongate, while the right side is a stabilizer now. I'm a bad man, trust me. I'm a very bad man. Bend your knees to the chest. Go to the left side of your abdominal plate, or your sacral plate. This is all a modified version of the shoulder balance bridging of this. Like, you know, where they're up in shoulder balance and you place your hand on your SI and your legs go out and you go off all freaking directions. This is the stuff that teaches that stability. All right, only 3 inches. So if you feel your right hip come a couple inches up off the floor, you're fine. If you go super far, it's going to make it super hard. I'm not in person there like cracking the whip, so be nice to yourself. Flex the buttock, tuck it towards the knee. Squeeze each leg equally into the block. The reason I'm having you do this with the block, it'll keep you honest. And then lower your feet to 1 inch off the floor and only go as far as you can keep each glute, each leg active. Slide the feet 1 inch above the floor away from your body. Take your time. I can wait. And you should feel more pressure on your left hip than your right, or your left buttock than your right side. So you're in a slight twist in doing this. So I should see left feet closer to the floor than the right foot. All right, back to center. Place both feet on the floor for a moment. Give yourself just a chance to breathe and rest. If you feel your hip flexor start getting cranky or your outer hip, that would be correct, because those muscles often overwork when the hips themselves, or when the abdominuses themselves do not work. I'm going to say this is challenging for a lot of us, including myself, not because we have weak core, but because we have an engaged core. It is easy to let muscle, other things do the work. And the lower back is a lot of very tough muscle. We have to actively engage all the front body. Back does a lot of it instinctively. All right, pick up the feet off the floor. Flex the glutes, pull them towards the back of the knee. Squeeze each leg into the block equally. Take both legs to the right, more of a twist. So like 5 to 10 inches. If you go 10, you're going full hard mode. So you decide for you what you need. Squeeze the blocks. Notice which side of the leg wants to give out, because whatever leg stops squeezing, those inner thigh muscles stop working. That side of your abdominis is not going to help you, especially the way it connects to your lower back. Lower the feet so your right foot's about 1 inch off. Slide both legs out. Flex your glutes, tuck them towards the knee. Make sure those, it is your duty to flex that glute. Back to center. To the left, 5 to 10, your choice. Then once you've gone that, lower your feet down so your left heel is about an inch off the floor, and then slowly extend those legs. And when you straighten those legs, each leg engaged into the block, each buttock flexed up and in. And you can only take your legs out as far as you can feel both of those things that are true. Exhale, back to center. That's so nice. Let's do it thrice. Squeeze the blocks. Take both legs to your right. Go whatever degree you want to explore. If you're like happy in the waters of 3 to 5 inches, stay there. You want to go 10? Great. You want to go farther? Beware. The more you twist and do this, the challenging it is, but it will make your revolve poses very nice. Lower your heels down so your right heel is about an inch off the floor. And then when you straighten your legs out, don't just unbend your knee, but straighten from your thigh bone and try to lengthen the heels out in line with your hip joint. So it feels like your thighs move away from your belly. Your glutes have to flex to keep this true. And then your knee unfurls so your heels are in line with your tailbone. That would be the idea. So it's not that you're a big bent V that's twisting. That's a pose, that's just later. This is about creating extension while there's rotation. Like taking a washcloth, twisting it up, and then pulling it straight. Untwist. To the left, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to oblivion. When you go to the left, flex the glutes. Don't just do the movement and then flex your body. Move an engaged muscle. Cannot emphasize that enough for everyone's health and ultimately safety. Once you've gone as far as you need to, lower your heels down so your left heel is about an inch off the floor in line with your tailbone. Move the thighs away from the stomach, stretch the leg out any degree while keeping all 4 parts true. Each glute fired, each thigh flexed, and you will feel your abdominals in ways. Take a breath. Exhale, bend the knees, rotate back to center. Put your feet on the floor. Take the blocks out. Roll to your right side, stand on up, grab a couple blocks for yourself or chair, whatever you need for your standing poses. So let's go through those again now that we're worked up. Stand nice and wide, 3.5 to 4 foot. We won't stay in them very long, I promise. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Push through the legs. What did you feel in the abdominal pose? That was an abdominal extensionary twist. Triangle's a lateral movement that the core helps with. So take the belly breath, flex the glutes, right? Flex the inner thighs, right? Remember what it was like to squeeze the thighs into the block? Flex those quads like you were squeezing them in, and then stretch the arms out, shift your hips, lift from the abdominal wall up and out, and lengthen both sides of your spine from your core muscle, lifting your spine and ultimately down to the ground. Do not let yourself unengage from the pose once it becomes, and just rely on your back to catch. Some of you might notice different from this versus then. Are both sides of your abdominal walls flexed? And then what I'm asking is, are both of your inner thighs flexed? Can you flex that same inner thigh muscle up through the pelvis to the core? Can you flex each buttock and not push your hips forward, but flex the glute down towards each respective heel, just like when you were tucking them because you were laying down, and then lift your spine up, lean your upper body back. You look at pictures of Mr. Angar in this, that dude is way back there with his torso, not just his head and neck, they were back there, but way back there with his torso because his abdominals were holding the extension of his spine. Exhale, pick yourself up from your core and your left arm, turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Inner thighs, flex the glutes, lift from the core, shift the hip, stretch from the core out through the left arm. Give a base founding action. So if the power of your legs is supposed to extend through the arms, this point must be the next stop on the road. So quad to core to arm. Extend, hand down, arm up, and then check with your glutes, check with your thighs. And can you let each abdominal wall flex and lift to lean your spine back? So ultimately the back muscles that are tight back there can feel the freedom to move back and flex, and they don't have to hold you in protection. This helps free the neck in time. Take a breath. Take another. That first one was kind of small. All right. Pick yourself up from your core in your right arm. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Shift your right hip to your left. When you shift the hips, can you shift it and feel and keep the abdominal engaged, the inner thighs flexed, the hamstrings engaged, the glutes engaged. So that when you move those flexed muscles, you start to stretch over. Bend the right knee, lengthen the abdominal body over from the power of your legs through the core, right hand down, swing your left arm around. And even when you swing the arm, don't just fling it on the joint. Think about your left abdominal wall, extending that arm. So there's a whole length of the rib cage and the arm and the abs that take place. So there's a freedom to move the spine back. If you slouch a lot, you got to move it backwards to change it. Take a breath. Exhale. If you come, pick yourself up from your left arm and your core, and thus your thigh. Turn your right toes in, your left toes out. Inner thighs, glutes, shift the hips. Bend the knee with the shifted hip. Your left knee. Stretch your upper body out. Elongate from the core. Left hand down, right arm swings. And when you swing it, swing from the abdominal wall. Extend from that whole side body out. Nice. Your foot doing okay, Pratima? I'm keeping my eye on you. Check your thighs, check your glutes. And then how can you flex just like you were squeezing the block and extending to lift that abdominal wall up the length of your spine. Press through the foot, lift from your core, belly button up through the arm. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. And we're trucking. We can do a lot in 10 minutes. Like we had 14 minutes when we started these. We're going to get through them all. Arms out. Through the legs, flex the glutes, get those abs to fire, and then twist. Try to twist the upper body to face out over the right leg as much as you can. but not by letting the abdominis hang forward. Remember, we did these poses once where I tried to emphasize very little of the core. I let you get into the pose when you're, and I told you to do it when you were in the pose, but now we engage the core through the whole action of doing the pose. We're here for the journey, not for the fruit at the end of it where our pose looks perfect. Extend the left arm out from the abdominal wall, pushing to the low back. Stretch over the body. So when you stretch over, it's like you're leaning over a core muscle that's picking your lower spine up. If I were to take a beach ball and put it in your gut, you want to roll over that beach ball, take your left hand down, and then rotate as best you can from the core, lifting your spine. So you can flex your right abdominals more to push your right ribs up, and then your left abdominals to pull your left ribs down. And then stretch your right arm up. Feel the difference. Is there a difference, honey? Yeah. Tristan says there's a difference. She can't elaborate right now, but she's in it. The difference is I will probably sleep on the couch tonight. Take a breath. Now back off of how intensely you're straightening the legs and pushing your hips, and try to take a belly breath and draw your core into it and twist more on the strength of a bent leg that is strong and a core than straight anything. And then once you've twisted more and you feel stable, then lengthen it out. Extend a flexed muscle. Extend a stable muscle. All right, untwist from your core, bring your body up. Right toes in, left toes out. We're doing yoga like we're running out of time. Rotate the upper body over the left leg, flex the core muscle, flex your legs. Remember the inner thigh, the glute. We can go back to doing that stuff laying down, but I don't think any of you want that right now. Reach the right arm out, extend the whole right side of the body from the right inner thigh up through the core muscle, up through the arm. Shift your left hip, and then take the hand down. Before you twist your shoulder neck, rotate the core body, rotate your thighs. If those are part of the thigh muscle, you want your core to rotate, rotate your thighs internally. Twist your core, and then your left arm can go up. You create extension once there's stability. Use the left abdominals to lift the left ribs. Use the right abdominals to draw the right ribs down. There you go. So your mid and upper back can move a little more, just a little more. Right? Good use of wall pratima to help. Now everyone bend your knees slightly and try to work your legs and abs better. Take a breath. Untwist. Left toes in, right toes out. Shift your right hip towards the left hip. Bend your right knee. Stretch your upper body out over the right thigh, flexing the abdominal wall up. So you're trying to pick the belly up off of both arms, whole upper body. Pull the core muscles up away from the thigh. And when you're ready, take your left hand down to a block. Stretch your right arm out alongside your right ear. Lengthen from the left foot all the way through the right arm. Pull the core up, and as you exhale, can you lift your lower back slightly by lifting the core and then twisting on that lifted muscle? You may not go as far, but you will feel greater muscle work. Think about and be careful, especially on twists. It's easy to compress the ribs down into the abdomen. when the core pulls under, it's pulling under the ribs. And I like to think about if you could suck your ribs, or not your ribs, if you could suck the core muscle under the rib cage so the ribs flare or widen or lift, there's your action. It should be about stable spreading, stable extension. Even if you don't rotate far, it's fine. Exhale, bend, keep the knee bent, bring the body up. Switch. You okay? Hard? Different? With your left toes turned out, shift your left hip to your right hip. Bend your left knee. Abdomen, glutes, inner thighs, right? Flex those thighs in on that imaginary block that's always in Tadasana. Stretch both arms out, keeping your core lifted so the low back is wide. And when you've extended, take your right hand down to a block, take your left arm, stretch it up alongside your left ear, and then take that deep belly breath and then draw those abdomen muscles under your ribs and use them to lift your ribs up. So you're spreading that left rib cage so it can rotate. Exhale, bring the arm down, bring the body up. All right, we're going to do these last three in old school Iyengar succession. So gird your loins. Take a breath, left toes in, right toes out. Bend both arms. Inner thighs, flex the glutes, rotate the abdomen. Lift the core muscles back and up. Exhale, arms up, bend the right knee, warrior one. And again, feel where your body weight is. If you felt yourself fall into one foot more than the other, you're not engaging your legs equally. You're distributing your weight to one side of the abdomen versus the other. So therefore, one side of your spine. Drop your weight into both legs. Pull the abdominal walls back and up so there is a flare of the ribs, and you can lean your upper body back. Take a nice breath. Keep the abdominal walls back and up. Rotate your left thigh and hip back. Keep your right leg exactly where it is. Keep the weight in it exactly as it is. Roll your left thigh back. Stretch both arms wide. Where's the weight, in the front or the back of your foot? Equalize it by drawing those abdominals back and up so there's a lift up the length of your spine. Take a deep breath. Lean your body weight into the right leg more. Take both hands in front of your right foot. Lift your left leg up, but don't let the abs drop. Keep them lifting to lift your left leg better. So your fingertips almost just barely brush the floor. They are there for balance, not for weight bearing. If you kept your core when you went up on the leg, you're less likely to be in your hands. And for a moment, put both hands on your hips and look straight out in front of you, lifting from your core strength. Look at it, superhero flight school. All right, take a breath. Hands on the floor, bend your right knee, take your left foot down 3.5 feet away from you. Pick yourself up from your core muscle back to center. Turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Rotate the pelvis, rotate the core, work the inner thighs, work the glutes to help all movement. Even if you feel like it restricts you sometimes, it's okay because we're here to move that stuff that's tight. We're here to teach how to flex a muscle and then stretch it so it is stable and healthy. Both arms up, lift from the abdominals up the length of the spine so you find height like Tadasana, then bend the left knee and let your hips come down so the abdomen has something to work against. Not just gravity, but the drop of your own pelvis. Don't suck your ribs back. Go below your ribs. Lift your core up into those ribs so they flare up. If you overknit the abs, you pull and overknit your ribs down, you will lose that lift of your chest. The abdomen pulls under and up to spread. So you get that big old barrel chest Mr. Angar has. Take a breath, stretch your arms wide, rotate your right thigh, keep your weight into each foot. So you keep your core muscles rotating. The hips go down as the knee bends, but the abdominis, spine lift. All right, take a breath. Exhale. Good, no one jumped into the pose. Take another breath, and then on this exhale, take both hands in front of the foot. Keep the core lifted, don't lose it all the way down. Teach your body how to be engaged in all the movements you do. There's no day off of your life. Exhale, lift the right leg up. There's day off from work, there's day off from parenting, there's day off from all sorts of things. There's no day off from your life. That's called being dead. Suck the core up so that you feel the lightness in the way of the fingertips. Like everything that you do with the legs and the core is there to help take that weight off the shoulder, neck, arm. And for a brief moment, that right leg up. Float your fingertips onto your hips if you can. Try. Even if you wobble, even if you fall. Woo! Exhale, leg down, lay down. Try to collapse with the humor and grace that is only earned through work. All right, let the eyes close. If you want to prop your body up, now's the time to do it. Something under the neck, the head. Let your eyes close. Relax the jaws so the teeth barely touch. Turn the eyes down towards the cheekbones. And as you take a nice deep breath in, slow breath out, you feel that abdominal breath lift, shift, and change the muscle, the nerve, the skin that you are now more aware of. What were you here for tonight? And what did you find out about and for yourself that came along the way that was not part of the unknowable future or the dream that may be an illusion? And can you take one of the pearls of wisdom or moments of laughter or confidence or bravery it took to do it all? Can you take that in as the real treasure of all? That we may never reach that thing that you want. It may just not be real. But all the wisdom, kindness, compassion that you cultivate, all the new things you learn about yourself, to give you a chance to define, refine, and grow. And rest, my friends, for a minute. Enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice.